Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are back in the motherland of Scotland, which is always exciting, and so over the next couple of weeks you're going to get to enjoy a few Scottish reviews, some Irish things, and potentially some English stuff and other things as well. We'll just need to see how it goes, but really looking forward to reviewing some more Irish stuff for you, and I do have some very good Scottish beers lined up. So yeah, good times over the next few weeks. But to kick off this kind of mini-series, if we can call it that, I thought we would stick to Scotland and return to a brewery that's featured on the channel a good number of times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last kind of 2-3 years. They're known mainly for their New England hazy IPAs, and the beer that we're going to have a look at today is supposed to be a very good one actually. So really curious to see how it turns out. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head through to Glasgow once again, to Yoker to be precise, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Overtone Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called the Heavy Pop. It comes in at 12% ABV. It's a bit of a monster. It's a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, Imperial Triple IPA, and this could well be the strongest beer I've had from these guys. I can't remember what strength the Imperial Stouts were, but it's certainly the strongest IPA that I've had from them. The last triple IPA that we had from these guys was the Last Bus to Yoker, and I think that was also the last review that I published from these guys as well, and that was very nice. And I've got high hopes for this beer on the back of that one, and as I said, I've heard that this one is pretty damn good. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Overtone Brewing Company before, and we will no doubt add more to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Scottish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite regularly at the moment because I am at home in the motherland of Scotland. Beyond that, I add to it whenever I get the opportunity. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Overtone Brewing Company then. So Overtone Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Glasgow, and the company was founded back in 2017 by Bo Wang, who is originally from Beijing in China. So he had been a home brewer for a number of years before founding the brewery, and the name Overtone is taken from Bo Wei's love of techno music, and that's the reason why you have this lovely art on a lot of the cans as well. But Bo Wei hired Dan Miller, who's from New Hampshire over in New England in America, as his head brewer, and he'd previously worked as a head chef, but also as a brewer in England, New York, and in Scotland for 6 Degrees North, who are an awesome little Belgian brewery brewing their beers in Lawrence Kirk, but mainly based in the northeast of Scotland. Do check those guys out if you get the chance. But also involved in the brewing operations is Martin Conahan, who has worked in the craft beer scene in New Zealand for a number of years, and you know, he does a number of other things behind the scenes as well, but also very actively involved in the brewing, as I said. The brewery itself can be found in the New Albion Industrial Estate in Yoker, and which is quite close to Renfrew and Clydebank, which is where my grandparents came from originally. But they began their brewing operations back in about 2018. But the brewery don't have a fixed range of beers, and they're always brewing new and different beers. And as of October 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced just over 50 different kinds of beer. And I think they release something like 2 beers every week. And I don't know whether it's always new beers or whether it's rebrews and things like that, but there are 2 cannings every week from what I understand, which is pretty impressive actually. But they're basically expanding their capacity constantly to increase their output, and like I said, they've been getting a lot of plaudits across Scotland and down into England and things like that over the next little while. I think the main reason for their kind of rise in prominence recently was the fact that they started sending their beer down to England a little bit more widely, because they were already getting plaudits up here in Scotland actually, but when the English got hold of their beer, that was when they really started to become a little bit more well known. And I'm sure now the exports have started. I've seen these beers in Copenhagen and in Sweden as well. I'm sure that they're going to get even bigger. But yeah, a very, very well respected IPA brewery these days. And they're starting to experiment a little bit with different styles too, like sours. I've seen Hefeweizens from them. I've reviewed a lager on the channel. And they've been doing imperial stouts for a little while actually. So lots of interesting stuff from these guys at the moment. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Overtone Brewing Company for the moment. One of the most respected breweries in Scotland just now, and definitely worth trying if you get the chance. But if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, that is it for your history section for Overtone Brewing Company then. So let's have a little look at the beer itself. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on the can before we open it up. You can see once again it's this beautiful kind of techno style that they've gone for here. You can see on the back they always give you a little bit of data on the beer. So with this one it says using a new innovative hop product from Yakima Chief called Cryopop Blend and a whole lot of other hops. This is our biggest IPA to date. The blend delivers massive tropical stone fruit and citrus aromas while the other hops heighten the flavour with added earthy notes. So yeah, this one contains Cryopop, and I did do a little bit of research on Cryopop before this. So as it says on here, it's a blend that's created by Yakima Chief. It has between 18 to 22% alpha acid, and it gives you a lot of tropical and stone fruit flavours. But apparently it's essentially a blend of the most hop soluble compounds that they've taken from their cryo process. But in the cryo process, from what I understand, what they do is they essentially separate the lupulin oils from the rest of the plant, which if I remember rightly is called like the brist or something like that. I forget the exact name for it, but they're basically separating the usable parts of the hop flower from the non-usable parts, and they concentrate them using modern technology. So yeah, basically chemical separation, which I did many times in the organic chemistry lab. So it's quite interesting to read about these things. But unfortunately, when I was researching, it didn't tell you what hops the different chemicals were taken from actually. So I can't tell you exactly what the Cryopop blend is, but I guess that's probably for commercial reasons, because if people found out what it is, they could do it themselves, and then Yakima Chief don't have a product after that. So yeah, it seemed to be all trademarked and things like that. But the other hops in this beer we know quite well. Mosaic, Cryo, Mosaic, American hop, 14% alpha acid. It always gives you that kind of juicy tangerine note with a little bit of earthiness in my experience. Nelson Sauvin, the big New Zealand hop, about 16% alpha acid. Lots of kind of gooseberry, white, green, grapey elements to that one. So yeah, that is a rundown of your hops. Didn't say anything about the malt base, but yeah, this beer, 440ml can. I bought this one at Annie's Larder in over in Donham. There's quite a few shops of theirs around now. I'm trying to remember. Was it Annie's Cellar? Something like, it's either Annie. Yeah, I think it's Annie's Cellar, not Annie's Larder. Sorry, but they had quite a bunch of different Overtone things in when I went in there. But yeah, 440ml can, and I think I paid about £7 for this. So that is roughly in the region of €8, 80 Swedish kroner, and I guess in dollars that's probably about what, $9.50 American, something like that. So yeah, a little bit of an expensive beer, but it's Overtone, you're going to get something good, so this was a case of fuck it, why not, basically. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. A 12% New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, triple IPA, and there we've got it open now. So this one doesn't want to. There we are. No, it's okay. I thought it was going to blow up on me there, but yeah, we'll get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. But yeah, let's get this guy out and into the glass. Ooh, this looks good. This does look good. So we've still got a little bit of it left, but we'll leave that until we actually go to taste the thing. So yeah, anyway, before the head disappears on this one, you can see that it's poured with a lovely 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say cream coloured head. You can see that quite nicely on the camera when it focuses in there. Just look at that. So I still love the camera on this phone. It's just unreal. But yeah, lovely kind of cream coloured head. They're definitely not perfect white. It has got a wee bit of a creamy tinge to it. But you can see this beer has poured a lovely, very bright yellow colours one. If you shine the light through it, it's actually a little bit more of a kind of rich yellow, but to you guys, just with the light reflecting off the glass and things, it comes across as very bright like a mango juice. But to me, this is a lot more of a kind of murky, dark yellow, and when it's 12% ABV, you'd kind of expect that, to be honest with you. Now remember, the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use. This determines the magnitude of the colour. 2, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do and any adjuncts that you put in are going to affect that as well, but quite often you do not have to care about that when it comes to New England hazy IPAs. A beer like this one is going to undergo a wort boil of between 70 to 90 minutes, something like that. And yeah, going by the colour of this one, I don't think this one will have had too much of a kind of brown sugary malt added into the mix, but at 12%, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a little bit of it in here. But the level of haze on this one is pretty damn impressive. This is a very soupy and gloopy beer, but you know, while I say quite often that there is no rule to how this goes, I'm not surprised that it's a bit soupier and gloopier. The level of haze depends on the yeast, the wheat content and the oak content, and of course when you're at 12% you are going to get a little bit more of that, but this can vary from brewery to brewery, recipe to recipe, and so on. But a very impressive looking beer, this one. Lovely bright kind of mango juice colour to you guys, but I think it's a little bit more of a kind of like mango pineapple sort of thing. It just seems a little bit more mixed tropical actually, but beautiful looking beer. I don't think we need to say any more about the appearance of this one, other than the fact that the head has faded away to be a very thin, foamy layer. So I think we can take a look at the aroma now and see how we get on with that. Very curious about this beer, as I said earlier. That smells ridiculous. It's very, very nice. Yeah. So, backbone of this beer is very, very nice. On the straight away with this one, I'm going to say that it comes across as a slightly farmhousey but big, bready and slightly sweet New England IPA. As I've told you before, New England IPAs can go in a few different directions. They can be farmhousey and yeasty, rye leaning and grainy, wheaty and bitey, oaty creamy, or barley malt leaning and bready, or indeed they can be a little bit more kind of sweet and brown sugary leaning. Quite often they will display traits of a few of these different things. But yeah, this one strikes me as being a big, smooth and slightly sweet New England IPA. The green component is nice and big and very bright, and you've got a lovely mix of juicy fruitiness to this. So I think it's going to go down very, very well. I just wish we knew what hops were in this cryo pop blend, because it does certainly give you a fair whack. So I think this was a good choice for one of their biggest IPAs that they've done, or the biggest as they're calling it. And just as a note, I'm filming this review for you in early October 2021, so I don't know if they'll rebrew this or whatever, but if you guys are watching, that's when it's going down. But yeah, this is pretty damn special. So let's break the aroma down for you then, a little bit more succinctly, as we often do. So yeah, aroma wise, this beer, I would say backbone, you do get a little bit of that kind of Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing, and bread crust for sure. You get a nice bit of a kind of bready bread crust in this one. You can smell that lovely kind of barley malt leaning thing on this, so I love that kind of big barley malt type quality, which is great. You've also got a little bit, you can smell the sort of wheaty, the wheatiness kind of thickening out that white bready note in the beer, but also some big, smooth, oaty characteristics coming out of this beer too. So yeah, aroma wise, I think this one goes together very, very well. Yeah, I think on the malty side of things too, on top of it, you can smell the oats just kind of giving you a wee bit of that kind of creaminess, but they also give you a little bit of dry character as well. And I'm also getting some of these kind of woody, farmhousey, yeasty kind of components out of the beer. And when it's a big 12% like this, that's not really a surprise, to be honest with you. But I do get a wee bit of that sweetness out of the beer, that big kind of, you know, Werther's Original, butter candy, butterscotchy type thing. So getting quite a wee bit of that out of this beer, which I can certainly appreciate. But yeah, I don't think there's too much to say on the malty base other than that. But like I say, this beer for me really leans towards a more kind of, it's good, it's quite well balanced between the sweetness the thick breadiness and a bit of the kind of farmhousey yeasty sort of thing. So yeah, I'm curious to see how that translates into the flavour, if you like, because quite often these beers can come across quite differently between flavour and aroma. But yeah, it's certainly quite attractive, let's just say that. So on the green side of things, on the green component, there's a wee bit of a kind of earthiness coming out from the mosaic. Lovely big green floral qualities for sure. Lovely big kind of floral aromaticity coming out of the beer, which I really enjoy. But you also have, I would say that the floral aromaticity as well, it's got a bit of brightness to it, but you can smell just a wee bit of dankness underneath. But remember, New England IPAs rely on mainly late and dry hopping rather than early edition hopping, which the West Coast IPAs also have. And it's the early edition hops that give you the bitterness. The late edition and dry hopping are the ones that give you the most flavour and aroma. But you do get a little touch of dankness out of this one, but I don't know if that's just due to the sheer kind of power of this cryo pop mix that's going on in there, but the earthiness will most likely be attributed to the mosaic. But yeah, nice bright floral aromaticity. On the grassy side of things, I'd say that it's got a good little bit of zest to it, but there's also a wee bit of wetness in there. You do get a little bit of that kind of wet, fresh, freshly cut grass sort of thing out of this one, which is good. So yeah, green component is kind of what you'd expect. Nothing really out of the ordinary in that particular part of the beer, I guess we could say. But let's look at the fruitiness then to round off the aroma. So for me, I actually find this one, it's quite a juicy, it reminds me a little bit of Idaho 7 to be honest with you, but not quite as soft. I get a lot of juicy mango off this one. You can smell a wee bit of a slightly drier apricot underneath. I get quite a bit of pineapple as well, to be honest with you. I do get quite a little bit of pineapple out of this one, and I'm guessing all of those come from the cryo pop. But for me, yeah, quite a juicy mango. Not so much of a ripe mango as you can sometimes get from like Victoria's Secret or Idaho 7 or whatever. But yeah, a bit of pineapple, bit of apricot, and a bit of mango. It's actually not too far away from Victoria's Secret, as I say. But yeah, I do get a nice bit of an oily tangerine note, and you can certainly smell that typical Nelson Sauvin character in there as well. Mosaic and Nelson Sauvin is quite a common blend, so this is something we've come across before. But yeah, a nice oily tangerine. It's got that lighter tangerine note to it rather than the big oily orange, but also, as we say, some as I said, we've got some kind of so you get some of that kind of gooseberry sort of white green grapey sort of oiliness on the front of the nose with this beer too. So it's a lovely smelling beer in that sense. There's it's got a big oily juicy fruit character, and it's quite well balanced between those oily notes and the more tropical things, as we said. So as I always say, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But yeah, I think we can have a taste of this one then and see how we go. So yeah, that's the last of the beer poured. This one is the heavy pop? I just had a brain fart there. Yes, the heavy pop. I was going to say heavy fuel there, but that's a beer from Fjäderholmarnas Brewery in Stockholm, barley wine. Brain fart, like I said. But yeah, this one is the heavy pop, a 12% New England hazy triple IPA from Overtone Brewing Company through in Glasgow. Apparently the biggest IPA that these guys have ever done, so that's quite exciting if they're saying that. Hopefully they do a West Coaster at this ABV as well, because they're good at West Coasters too. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, and cheers. Oh yeah, that's a very, very good beer. I'm going to say that this one, it has that typical Overtone vibe to it, and for a 12%er, another first impression I've got is that this is pretty dangerously drinkable. So yeah, it is damn good. But yeah, lovely smoothness to it, breadiness, oatiness, juicy fruits, and just a nice green component to it. That is, stupidly drinkable for a 12%er. Let's just say that. So yeah, this is one of the things that I always say with New England IPAs. I'm never sure whether you really need a New England triple IPA. I like them, but if I'm going to drink a 12%er, I want to know it's a little bit more boozy. So I prefer a little bit more of a kind of malty thing. You know, with the West Coasters, you do get a bit more of that kind of booziness out of them from the brown sugars and stuff, whereas I think with the New Englands, the whole idea is really to cover the booze. But that's just me, everyone likes different things, but if I'm going to drink a triple, I do like that, and that's maybe my thing with the New England IPAs. I honestly don't mind with these. If it's a 7%er and it has the right levels of juiciness and things, for me that's just as good as a big 12%er like this. But yeah, I'm going to say, in terms of just, you know, if we just think about this one as a New England IPA, which is a style I like, I think this is really well done once again, but dangerously drinkable for a 12%er. So yeah, be aware if you drink this. So yeah, on the, you know, overall it's just a really lovely oily and kind of slick New England IPA, but let's break the flavour down for you then. So middle and back third of your palate. Straight away with this one, you can feel that sort of crackery, Jacob's cream cracker, fresh white bread crusty backbone there. That goes right across the middle and the back third of your palate. On top of that, you get that nice kind of barley malty, white bready backbone in there. That sits on top, and you can feel it's quite a fluffy white bread that you get out of this actually, which is again very, very nice. But yeah, it's just a very smooth beer, this one. I really think this is damn solid. I mean, if you can brew a 12% New England IPA like this and make it this smooth, that really just says all about the quality of the brewing. And these guys, as I said, have been getting a lot of plaudits in recent times, and it really is well deserved. When you try a beer like this and it's as drinkable as it is, that is impressive. So yeah, very technically gifted brewers, these guys, for sure. But yeah, on top of that white bread, you know, that fluffy white bread, you can feel that the wheat is there, just thickening it out a little bit. And let's focus on the middle third of your palate now. These notes, as I said, they are from middle to back third of your palate. But on top of that wheaty layer, you do get a little bit of a kind of a kind of oaty creaminess out of this one for sure. So in the middle of your palate, you've got a bit of a circle there, and it's, well, I don't know if it's more of a circle. I think it actually is more about the middle kind of line of your tongue. You can feel the oats just filling in that little trench, that little arch in the middle of your tongue. So I really like how that goes together. And you can feel that the oatiness just spreads out towards the sides of your palate there. So it's a wee bit, you get a bit of a drier oatiness as you go out towards the edge of the palate there, but the oats are really creamy and smooth. This is one of the creamier oaty characters that I've found in a New England IPA recently. Quite a lot of the ones I've had in recent times have been a bit drier. And in fairness, one thing that you will notice about New England IPAs as they get older a little bit is that the oatiness does kind of dry out a wee bit more, and you start to get a few more, you know, farmhousey, woody, grainy type flavours out of them. So you do notice that with this style, but this one is holding up pretty well. But I think I bought this one last time I was home a few weeks back, and I think it was pretty fresh on the shelf at that point, so I was a bit worried coming back into this. But with New England IPAs, I always think it's not best to drink these fresh. I do think they need a little bit of time just to mellow out, like 2 weeks or something like that after the brewery after the brewery release them. I think that's when you get the New England IPAs at their best, because some of the green component has just dropped back a little bit. But this one I think really is in its prime at the moment, however old it is. Does it have a canning date on it? 17, I'm not sure exactly, there's 2 dates on there. 17th of August 2021, so I don't know, that they'll probably put it in and keep it for a little while, then release it. But yeah, I'm drinking this one in the first week of October, so yeah, this is in its prime at the moment, which is great. But yeah, the oaty creaminess in this comes out very nicely. But on top of that, you can feel there's a lovely kind of Werther's Original, Werther's Original note out of this one. So you get a little bit of a straight up caramel on the dead centre of your palate. As you move out from that, you get a wee circle of Werther's Original, and potentially as you push out towards the extremities of that middle third of your palate, it's more McVitie's and digestive like. So yeah, I think it goes together really, really well, this one. So yeah, middle third of the palate is very nicely done in this. Let's focus on the back third of your palate. So border region between middle third and back third of your palate, again, a little bit of a bread crusty build up in there, which is good. Then base of that back third of your palate, again, is it's bread crusty, a bit more grainy out to the back. You've got a little bit of a more kind of crackery thing underneath. On top of that, a little bit of a kind of white bready character, as I said, and the white breadiness actually feels a little bit thicker there. You do get some of the wheat on top of that, and you can feel it's a little bit more kind of bitey. And then on top of that, you've got a little bit more of that kind of big yeasty character. So yeah, you can feel the yeastiness in this. It actually comes across as a little bit more airy and sweet, and there's one or two little woody, kind of almost dusty kind of things in it, which is quite nice. But you know, as I always say, if you start at the back of your palate, you can feel the flavours a bit taller, but as you come further forward, it just condenses down a wee bit and then squashes together in the middle third of your palate. And I think that works. But as I say, this is an overwhelmingly smooth and sweet leaning New England IPA, this one. So yeah, it's a lot sweeter than the Aroma would have you believe, because you only got a little bit of sweetness out of it, but I think it's very smooth, and this one for me is right up the street. I like the kind of oaty, smooth, slightly sweet New England IPAs with a bit of wheaty bitiness. So this one really is up my street. This is potentially one of the New England IPAs that I've enjoyed the most from Overtone Brewing, actually. So yeah, it's good. It really is good, this one. So yeah, thumbs up to them for the malt base. Let's focus on the hoppy side of things. So yeah, back corners of your palate, you've got a wee bit of earthiness for sure. Again, that's most likely to be Mosaic. But as you come further forward, it kind of quickly gives you this wet sort of floral aromatic sort of thing, but that dries up as you reach the front corners of your palate. And I wouldn't say it's spicy, but it does give you a wee bit of it does give you just a little bit of an aromatic kind of, not zest, but bite almost. You do get a little bit of that out of this, but round the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and grassy. Wee touch zesty, as I said, and yeah, I like how I do like how that comes across in this one. So yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me in that regard. I do like the slightly wetter, grassy sort of thing, but underneath that, as I say, further into the aftertaste you go, you'll get more zestiness out of this one, that's for sure. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, let's focus on that front third of your palate. This is quite nice. It's a big oily, juicy sort of thing, and that's one of the things I really like about New England IPAs. So border region between middle and front third of your palate. Again, a little bit of bready build up, wee bit of bread crust. Then the base of that front third of your palate is more of a is a little bit more of a kind of, you've got a white bread and a slightly oatiness in there. So soft white bread, a little bit of an oaty smoothness for sure. So yeah. So yeah, on top of that, you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. And I will say the fruity side of the beer is pretty much what you get in the Aroma. So on the back half of that front third of your palate, you know, maybe there's a teeny little bit of passion fruit at the back there, but not a lot. For me, it's a big oily mango character that you get on the back half of that front third of your palate. Maybe one or two little apricot notes and a bit of pineapple there, but for me, it's a big oily mango, just with a few little subtleties. So yeah, that's what I'm getting, and that'll be the cryopop that's doing that, because the other two hops, the Mosaic and the Nelson Sauvin, will not really give you tropical fruit. So yeah, as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, for sure you can feel that the Nelson Sauvin kind of sits underneath, and it gives you that big oily gooseberry, white, green, grapey sort of thing. But on top of that, you get an oily tangerine note, and it gives you a wee bit more zest. I always found that you get a little bit more zest out of Mosaic when you mix it with Nelson Sauvin, and it almost gives you the impression of a slight limey character behind the very front tip of the tongue. So yeah, Nelson Sauvin and the Mosaic really showing their head on the front half. But yeah, the cryopop for me just comes across as really mango-y, to be honest with you. Maybe into the aftertaste you're getting a little bit of a sharper peach out of it. I do find that it gives you a little bit of sharpness, and not that kind of green character that you'll get from sort of guava flavours. But yeah, it does have a wee bit of a kind of almost peachy note for sure. But yeah, oily mangoes more than anything else, a bit of peach and a wee bit of apricot and maybe a little bit of pineapple for sure. So the cryo pop comes out a little bit more into the aftertaste. I think we can safely say that about this one. So yeah, fruity side of this beer is lovely and oily and slick and good balance for sure. But yeah, I think that's everything we really need to say about the flavour of this beer. Let's round off the review with a look at the mouthfeel. Yeah, mouthfeel is unquestionably full-bodied. The carbonation is very, very smooth, almost non-existent to be honest with you. And this is a big, oily, slick New England IPA. No question about that in my mind. In terms of IBUs, it strikes me as being either very low or the IBUs come out a little bit later. You know, it has, you know, it really has quite a, it's got a little bit of that sort of just lingering character to it. So I mean, maybe this could be about a 40 or 50 IBU beer, but in some ways it just strikes me as being very, very smooth. So I'm not 100% sure about the IBUs in this one, but remember, as I always say, IBUs is my weakest point. That's my weakest point of beer reviewing for sure. But malt base, like we said, very, very smooth. A little bit of sweetness to it as well, more than the aroma would have you believe, but then a big oily, juicy, fruity character to this, and well balanced between the more tropical and the more kind of gooseberry like notes, I guess you could say, and the more citrusy kind of thing. So all three hops, if we can call them that, because cryopop's a blend, but yeah, all three of the hops in this kind of have equal footing. So I'd love to know what the ratio is for the brewing, but this is just a really solid beer from Overtone, potentially my favourite New England that I've had from these guys, and I've had some very, very good New Englands from them, so that's quite a statement to make. And as I say, the fact that it's 12% and it's a triple, you know, if they could replicate the flavours in this and the sort of oiliness and smoothness, which you can do with 7%ers and things, the 6.5% and 7%ers, I'd be quite happy with that. I'm still not overly convinced of the need to do 12% or triple New England IPAs, because they're not boozy in the same way that a West Coaster would be. But if we just consider it as a New England IPA, I think this is really damn good. So yeah, thumbs up to Overtone once again. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Overtone Brewing Company. I've got another 2 beers from these guys in the fridge, so you'll see those appear over the next little while. But in the meantime, this one was the Heavy Pop, a 12% New England Hazy Triple IPA from the wonderful Overtone Brewing Company in Yoker in Glasgow. Thank you for watching. Check out my social media, check out theirs, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. More Scottish reviews, some Irish things, and some English stuff to come over the next little while. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.